We have two great speakers today. We have Chris Daniels. He's a tech entrepreneur in the Miami startup tech scene. He's also co-founder of SpotX Games. SpotX is a Web3 innovation studio for the real world metaverse and was actually acquired by Niantic. So now he's part of the Web3 team at Niantic. And we also have Nunes. He is a leading expert in AR, NFTs, and cryptocurrency. He's the CEO of IMMUSE.xyz, which is an app that's powered by Lightship ARDK and remixes reality with visual music. So really excited to have them here today. And I'm going to pass it off to Chris Daniels now. So Chris, stop screen share and you can take over.
Awesome. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, let me get this fired up here and we'll get into it. Awesome. Okay, so today just want to kind of talk about what SpotX Games is and kind of where we sit in Niantic and how we can be a resource to everybody here, and then go over some Web3 concepts, explore a couple different small projects doing things with Web3 and AR, and then hand it over to Chris Nunes to really get into the guts of an awesome use case of bringing these two technologies together. So I guess first, Chanel mentioned it, but SpotX Games, we're a Web3 research and development group inside of Niantic. We were acquired by Niantic earlier this year, at the beginning of the year. We actually all met at a hackathon and built a augmented or NFT scavenger hunt for the hackathon. And really, we have a cross-functional team of 5 that all had this unique perspective of using technology to bring people out into the world. We wanted people to get out from their desks and go explore the different areas of the hackathon all around Miami. And so we met with the Niantic team, and kind of our core, missions and values just really aligned. So we're really happy to be here and see how we can incorporate Web3 concepts into the work that Niantic's already doing. Like I mentioned, we're cross-functional, so we have engineers on the team, product managers, strategy, all these things, and we kind of work as a group that's building these small experiences now to really test and iterate. And we want to do this all with a very build in public type of mindset. So if you follow us on Twitter at SpotX Games, we'll get into all that, but we really want to share and collaborate and be a part of both the Web3 community, the Lightship community, and be a resource for you all as you start to think about Web3 concepts, incorporating that into Lightship or other things you're building. I will mention too, we are totally working with all of the Lightship and eighth wall technology too, which is really fun to get our hands dirty on all of that and see what we can do with it. So these are some of the past experiences we had. Here in the middle was Shrimp Games. This was our scavenger hunt with our winner there with the cash prize. Then we went on to Austin, Texas for South by Southwest, where we created the first user experience generated NFT. So what you see here is the actual path that the points of interest that the winner collected. We had hundreds of people come out and play SpotX at South by, and you can see the recap video there. It was just an absolute blast to really bring people out, especially at such a distributed conference. If anyone's ever been to South by Southwest, it's kind of mayhem. There's events all over the place, and we actually, with our technology, had a way to show people where to go and collect these spots and have a lot of fun doing it. So that was kind of our first Niantic official project, and then we moved on to mine. So did anybody here go to the Lightship Summit? I recognize a couple of faces, but if you were there, you probably played mine, which was our augmented reality scavenger hunt around Yerba Buena Park. That was a really fun time, just going out, collecting these different clues and using your NFT as a cipher to work through some of that. So that's just kind of a snapshot of some of the things that we've worked on in the past and kind of how we want to bring people out. And now turning more into Web3. So the director of Web3 at Niantic is Shakai, and this is kind of aligns with how we all see the world and how Niantic leadership sees the world. But as Web3, starting from the top of Web3, it's really looking at digital property and owning this digital property, and how can we do that? I love this kind of diagram here, looking at Web3, how you can read, write, and own digital assets now, and with some of the technology we'll get into how that's all possible. But at kind of the highest level, we see Web3 as the broad sphere And then within that, you have technologies like blockchain, like tokens, like all these things that make owning those digital assets possible. And so, yeah, some of these things we mentioned here, how it all works together is you have wallets, which we're going to do a poll here in a second, but you have wallets that actually own these digital properties. All of these properties are stored on the blockchain, and it's very I guess kind of looking at your data as something that you can own, or looking at files as something that you can own and hold to your own person and your own wallet, your own company, versus having to have the intermediaries of some of kind of these massive organizations. Okay, so I think we're going to do a poll here just to see where everybody is at in terms of, if you heard of any of these smart contracts, wallets, NFTs, tokens, and DAOs. I want to dive into some of them that people aren't super familiar with here. So hit the poll. Let's see.
Yep, I'll launch the results once we get most of people answers in.
I love how you can see it live. This is so cool.
Yeah. Seems like people are quite familiar with the basics.
Yeah, definitely. Seems like most people are familiar with NFTs. That's awesome. Yeah, can everyone see the results there? I think so. So it looks like everybody's familiar with NFTs, which have of course taken over all of kind of 2020 and 2021 in terms of the news. And I'm sure everyone's heard of the Bored Ape Yacht Club and all these kind of big projects and crazy stories and things like that. Really, when you're breaking that down a little bit, in the blockchain ecosystem, you have both fungible tokens and non-fungible tokens. So your fungible tokens are things where basically like Bitcoin, or where it's exactly one-to-one, just like a penny. 1 penny is worth 1 penny is worth 1 penny. It's all fungible. And these are often more used as, your traditional like cryptocurrencies when you hear that. And then with NFTs, these are unique digital assets. So they're normally minted in a batch, or can be one of one in the case of artwork and things like that, but they're unique, and they have the ownership and kind of this whole history to show that they're unique, so that they can't be copied, stolen, all these different things. So those are kind of the two token mechanics in the blockchain ecosystem. It looks like not very many people are familiar with DAOs, which is a cool concept. We can touch on that for a minute. A DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. So it's somewhat of a company of the future that's based on a token ecosystem. And so these DAOs, maybe think of them as community organizations where members will have different purchase or be granted different levels of tokens, whether normally they're fungible tokens. And then with those tokens, you can vote. So let's say I have 10 DAO tokens and Chanel has 20, then I have 10 votes and she has 20 votes, and the whole organization kind of runs in this decentralized way. It's really cool, and a lot of NFT projects have moved into that, and as a way to have more of a decentralized ownership of a whole ecosystem. Awesome. So in terms of kind of the blockchain that's underpinning all of this, there's plenty of blockchains that we'll get into here, but essentially it's a distributed database, and it has a couple of key features: being decentralized, public, peer-to-peer, and storing data as a block. And so I think some of the most exciting things probably from the developer community side is that it's permissionless and it's public. So you can build and get access to this, and it really is a kind of like a meritocracy. If you can build something great with smart contracts and an amazing project, and you can release it in a community-led way, it's very open access, and you have that decentralized nature, which I think is really exciting. And when you see all of these, hundreds of thousands of developers leaving kind of traditional jobs to go move in Web3, this is something that I kind of hear from them that really excites them. So on that note, I think this is an awesome diagram to just kind of show the stack around Web3. So I'm sure you're probably like, oh my gosh, what are all these names? What is a brownie, truffle? What's going on? It's a lot, but if we just take it kind of step by step, there's some awesome stuff here. So what you have here is your network layer, right? So these are your blockchains, the Ethereum blockchain, Polygon, Avalanche, and over here you have some as well, Solana. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of that, or Near. There's kind of two main types of blockchains, EVM blockchains and non-EVM blockchains, and that has to do with how they interact with Ethereum and the Ethereum blockchain, which is essentially the biggest blockchain specifically for smart contracts and building applications. Above that, you have your interaction layer. So these are ways that you're able to release products, work with all these things. There's dozens and probably hundreds by now of different ways to interact, and different tools popping up from small teams to big companies. And then here you have some awesome Web3 native libraries. So definitely take a look at that. Alchemy, Web3 is a great resource. Your file storage is on IPFS, and you have some developer environments there. I'm not sure if anyone has, we'll hear from Chris maybe what developer environments and some of their stack they're working with. And then at kind of the application layer, they call them dApps normally, so decentralized applications that are built on the blockchain. You have, of course, your NFTs, your OpenSea. If anyone's bought an NFT, it's probably from OpenSea or one of these. And then your wallets here, right? So this is how you manage your identity in Web3. Normally, what MetaMask is one of the biggest ones here. So I wanted to just close with some interesting projects of just inspiration. There's one called FlickPlay, which kind of has this snackable, just fun, augmented reality content where your NFTs are shown in augmented reality. This was a video I took from Superworld when we were at NFT NYC. They had this massive wasp in Times Square, which was really cool to see. And then this was an NFT project where they had these 3D creatures. They're kind of cool. And they were being presented with Overlay, and Overlay is a really cool way to bring NFTs into augmented reality for free. It's totally like super simple. I've done it, and I'm not super technical, so definitely check out Overlay if you're trying to bring some NFTs into the AR world. And so, how can you get involved? I think the biggest thing on Web3 is just getting involved and start building. And just start tinkering around. It's a lot of rabbit holes that you'll go down, but it's totally worth it. And the community of developers and evangelists is just amazing. These are some communities and kind of developer communities that we like and that have some friends in. You have Encode Club, Build Space is awesome. They have a really fun community there. This is a fun one too, Crypto Zombies course, which is a fun course all around, building on Solidity contracts. And then Developer DAO, if you're really looking to get more involved and meet other developers in the Web3 space, Developer DAO is an awesome resource. They have hackathons and meetups and all sorts of different things, and they operate like a DAO, like I was mentioning before. So really cool how you can vote for the different projects the DAO will work on and things like that. But I think getting involved in whatever way, whether it's just buying an NFT and messing around or trying to build your first Solidity contract on Ethereum, getting involved is the best way. And I think, from SpotX perspective, we're here to support you, as a Lightshift developer, as someone who's around the Niantic ecosystem. We're, building every day, all day, and have worked with a lot of these different blockchains and technologies. So feel free to follow us on Twitter, shoot us a DM, and we'd love to just collaborate and see what you're working on and see if we can help. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Nunes, who is building all day, every day, an amazing project, IMMUSE. And we're going to dive into that now. So I'll stop screen sharing. I think you can take it over, Chris.
Yeah. Before I start doing my screen share, because the very first thing I'm going to show you guys is probably going to be a little eye-boggling. So before we dive into that detail, I just wanted to lean into one of the points that Chris made about the blockchain, and that will be our segue into my slide share. And that is, in terms of blockchain's benefits that it brings to developers, right? Chris was talking about permissionless access, just the open source nature of the code base, being able to read it, verify it, et cetera. Everything about a blockchain is transparent, right? So when you hear people talk about, black market transactions or criminal activity with Bitcoin, it's kind of head scratching because every single transaction you can trace from block to block to block, from wallet to wallet to wallet, and find out who owned what at what point and where did the money offboard into an exchange, for instance. And it's that transparency that we are leveraging directly with our project, because we're tackling the music business, which is sort of notoriously opaque and not transparent. So let me start my share now, because now I think this is where it's a little crazy busy. Am I doing my whole desktop or just the window?
It's your entire desktop.
Okay, let me just try to get just the window here, so it's a little bit better detail. Here we go. Share. All right. So this is the traditional music business, right? Which is crazy busy. And I'll explain a little bit of my background after we talk about our mission, but this is basically part of our mission at IMMUSE. IMMUSE comes from the merger of two words, which is immersive and music. So we're creating immersive music experiences, like metaverse music videos is another way to think about what we're doing. So this is the traditional music business. And if you see right in the middle, the record labels, the publishers are at the heart of everything. They are the gatekeepers for distribution. They are the sort of the talent pickers. And off to the side is the musician and the composer, right? They're not in the middle of the business at all. The record labels, the publishers, they are the center point. They're essentially like a financing scheme. They loan money out to create music. The music generates royalty streams over time. They're in charge of where the royalties are placed and what sort of marketing budgets go in support of creating this volume. Nowhere around here does the fan appear. And it's sort of unfortunate that the musician and the composer are not at the center. And this is largely because over the last, call it 100 years, as the music industry has developed, technology back in the 1940s didn't allow for tracking on the radio, and we didn't have streaming, obviously. And over time, as we've added these new technologies for being able to track where the music occurred, we've sort of cobbled this together in this big licensing scheme. And so right now, you as a consumer or as a Spotify customer, you're basically just given a license to listen or to consume. And this is where NFTs kind of changed the world. Is they actually changed the licensing landscape into an ownership landscape. And I'm sharing all of this, and this has not really, we're going to move away from these schemes to talk about our platform. But again, this is about our mission, which is realigning some of the incentives behind content creation and this new ownership model. So here with NFTs, let me go back. With NFTs, the musician now can control the financing scheme. And now the fans can be brought into the model in a way that they've never been allowed access before. So here, the financing through NFTs is really driving the content creation. The fans can be co-owners and actual partners in this whole model. And I show all of this because this is really driving where we're coming from with our content. And I know we've got a couple guys on the call here. I think I saw them enter the room, Wade and Patrick from Patched Reality. They helped us build one of our last projects. One of our last projects was with Niantic. It was with Warner Music and Rhino Records, where we built an AR experience for Led Zeppelin and Led Zeppelin 4, which is, going to California and Stairway to Heaven and Black Dog and When the Levee Breaks. And we created this amazing album experience with experiential music and visuals attached to it, audio reactive. And we thought to ourselves, well, this is just one art studio, because we were an art studio before building this platform. This is one art studio coming up with one vision of a song for one musician. What if we created a model where 3D artists could partner with other musicians and distribute these kind of metaverse music videos out to the audience? So I'll play some lightweight examples of what we've done as demos and as even some live work. These are all from in-app footage. At the heart of what we're doing is this ability to remix the video. I'll skip that next sample. We like to think about what we're doing as we're curating reality with art and music and trying to stitch that into the world where it deserves to live. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Keiichi Matsuda and any of his videos from the past, which are sort of this dystopian vision of AR content forced into your face, layered on top of the world in sort of a haphazard manner. We're really trying to avoid that. So we're trying to avoid a Black Mirror's kind of future with AR content and really make it a mindful content placement. And we're using NFTs for financial incentives to drive a lot of that curation activity. So one of our guiding principles is, if we're building stuff for AR glasses, what are you seeing in the world? What's that experience? Is it just heads up direction on Google Maps? Hopefully not. Hopefully there's a lot more richer content woven into your world. So we're trying to create this content environment that as you're walking to work, or as you're walking the dog, or God forbid driving with glasses, hopefully in a driverless car, what are you seeing in the world? How are you participating? How are you being entertained? How is the world better from AR content? And so we are pursuing an audio reactive future. Here's another example, which is more sort of filter based. How can we create these kind of experiences that are lightweight to a point where they're not interfering with your everyday life, but still entertaining? Okay, so a little bit about our background. I've been in augmented reality since about 2011. I met my co-founder BC at the second ever Augmented World Expo, back when it was called ARE. We've won a couple Augies for our artwork around the world. So before, we were an art studio called Heavy Projects. And we did projects all over the world, from Moscow to Geneva to Australia, all with AR, all in public spaces, trying to create this, not just dialogue with the audience, but really trying to pull like the inner artist out of our audience and have them pull some of that art back into the experience. So we were using AR as a two-way medium, where our installations were not just a broadcast message to the audience, but we were really trying to engage people in thought-provoking way using art. We've got, let me just run through some of our clients here. Niantic, we count as one of our clients. So we were one of the early explorers. I think it was almost 2 years ago, where we had early access to the ARDK. We were providing notes on interacting with the documentation and what sort of features were available. And then that led us to a partnership with Warner Music and Niantic to create that Led Zeppelin experience I mentioned. We've also done work for Google and Tesla and Samsung. Basically anybody that has a technology focused opportunity with their public spaces. So IMMUSE, we like to think of as like a visual Spotify, right? So if you've got music piped into your world, what are you seeing in association with it? Is it just a passive music experience like we've seen with Spotify, or can it be a little bit more engaging and entertaining? We couple that now with location, and we like to think of it as like a reverse Pokemon Go. So rather than going out and we're from the top down remotely authoring content into the world, and you're trying to track down the characters, we're actually empowering the music fans to go drop the music where they think it deserves to live for other people to come experience it. We also have this remix function, which makes us a little bit like TikTok, where we're trying to encourage user-generated content with the experiences and really lean into the fan co-creator model. And this again taps into the NFT incentives that I was alluding to earlier. And then I'll put aside the DeFi discussion for now, but that could have been part of the poll. Like, how many of you are familiar with the term DeFi? So it's decentralized finance. And so there's a system that we are creating in our platform that taps the IP value of the music and then drops that into a liquid staking protocol, which helps secure the whole Ethereum and Matic system. So that's a little bit technical, and if you know the DeFi world, then I'm happy to explain that in Q&A perhaps. So these are some of the experiences. I'll play Led Zeppelin first. This is unreleased content. We've gotten approval from Jimmy Page. We've gotten approval from John Paul Jones. We've not gotten approval from Robert Plant yet. We're fingers crossed waiting that he'll eventually approve it, but it's unreleased alpha.
with a woman and kind, smoke my stuff and drink all my wine.
All right, so that's sort of a lean back kind of experience. We were aiming it at the the traditional Zeppelin fan, but also trying to introduce the Pokemon Go audience to Zeppelin to hopefully create a new generation of fans around the music. So it wasn't as interactive as the stuff we're doing now. There was no remix function. There, if you see across the bottom, we did create like a symbol collection game associated with it, but that was as lightweight as the interactivity got. This other one is, we did an NFT drop with a Swiss DJ named Nora on Pure. We then created this as a sort of spec demo for what her next generation NFT could look like. And I want you to, when you see the UI coming across the bottom, this is an early version of our remix. And this is what's driving the particle effect changes, the material changes. And I think you might be able to imagine a situation where a fan at those bass heavy drop moments, they want a certain particle effect to launch off and really heighten the experience. That's the kind of interactivity that we're going for with our platform, is almost like a performance for the fan to participate in the music and just like do the fist bump or the hand raise, but expressed in the visuals, right? Expressed with the particle effects or the material changes or even animations. So again, what I want to impart upon you guys is we're an art studio. So all of the experiences that you're going to see from us are kind of artistic in nature, and we like the art exploration. But our platform is really designed to support other developers' visions for what the music should look like. Is that a mini game with some sort of joystick controller and jump, some sort of character animations? All of that is TBD, right? It's dependent upon the vision of each developer that's partnering with the musician. So, but the stuff you're going to see from us is very artistic. So just don't get too focused on what our vision is. We want to really empower your guys' vision. So I think just in keeping with the time, I'll move to the next slide rather than just showing you all of our sort of samples. Let me go through here. Come on, there we go. Okay, so the tech that we're building is relatively complicated by the fact that Apple still has a sort of love-hate relationship with NFTs. One of the reasons is blockchain and NFTs very easily or very potentially bypass their in-app commission structure, right? Which is a major revenue channel for them. So they haven't really figured out their true strategy around NFTs about supporting a decentralized open metaverse. And what we're seeing some recent announcements where they're finally coming to grips with the fact that NFT projects are here to stay. They're making some big money. And now Apple wants a share of that by saying, well, yeah, you can do NFTs, but only if you pay us our 15% or our 30% commission. To get around that, you can use web, right? So they can't govern what happens on the web. So our tech portal is actually a two-stage platform. On the one hand, we've got a web front end, which is where you buy or collect the NFTs, and that bypasses all of the Apple permissions. But then we also have a bespoke Unity-generated mobile app, which has ARDK integrated into it. So we drop the NFTs on our website. Then our app is wallet connected. So when you install our app and log in, we ask you for your wallet address, and then we read to see which NFTs you have in your wallet. Then you can place and play those music videos anywhere in the world, just like traditional normal AR. Our remix studio then allows you to play with the visuals and create new variables about, here's what this song looks like. I think it should have a flower bloom instead of a sun. And then we'll get into NFT staking, which is effectively placing things in location. Just as a little bit deeper insight into the first two stages, which, very traditional AR in this place and play. So everybody's familiar with creating a plane, dropping a model on a plane, pushing play to get going. I think where we're starting to see real friction points in the Web3 space is on the wallet front end. So when Chris was asking on the polling, like how many people are familiar with wallets versus NFTs, It's that wallet intersection that we're finding a lot of friction, and we need a lot of development around, a lot of experimentation. Well, we are going to be doing some of that with some partners, but everybody should be playing with wallets just to see how painful or painless it could be. But where we really are leaning in terms of our differentiator is on that remix function, because going back to our artistic practice of trying to pull the inner artist out of people, what we found in our installation work was some of our installations, we had 15 to 30 minutes of dwell time on our work because the fans or the audience was really having fun playing with the visual opportunities, the visual options. So we're leaning into that motif here quite a bit to really give people a sense of their own fingerprints on the work, right? These start as official music videos from the musicians, but then we want the fans to feel like they are participating, not just as an owner because they happen to have bought this NFT. And then, by the way, it could be a zero price NFT. It doesn't have to be for hundreds of dollars or even thousands. So when you own and collect the NFT, there's a sort of pride of ownership, yes, but we want to give people a pride of artistic expression. And that gives people different incentives for sharing their content. It's like user-generated content. If you've got your own fingerprints on something, you're going to have different incentives for sharing it and getting other people to watch it. So we're really leaning on that ethos. Right now, the music NFT space is kind of a hot emerging space. Everything in the NFT world right now is cooling down across the board, not just music, but people are really wondering, what's the value prop of NFTs? Is it just a collectible? And for our perspective, from 2017 to 2021, that's when you saw the big boom phase with monkey JPEGs, et cetera. That's the collectible phase. That was the early sort of hype, and NFT, we call that NFT 1.0. So the collectible phase of NFTs, we think is on the wane, and we're trying to create a usable phase, or NFT 2.0 phase of what do you do with this digital file once you have it in your wallet? Does it just sit there and you're hoping that it's going to appreciate in value, or can you use it somehow? And so as we're talking to non-Web3 native audiences that are music fans, of course they expect that their stuff should be usable, right? That's sort of a non-starter. Of course these things have to be used somehow. And in the Web3 space, you'll hear the word utility thrown around quite a lot. Like, what's the utility of this NFT? Is it just getting you access to a Discord server because there's a token gate in place and they're verifying whether it's in your wallet? Or can you use the digital file the way it was intended to be used somewhere out in a digital experience? And that's where we're hoping to also differentiate ourselves. So here's our location ethos. If you were to imagine, for instance, that every way spot that Niantic supports is some sort of digital stage that you can go to and experience music videos and or maybe even like a digital music festival, that could have a footprint that's 10 times bigger than Coachella. A distributed footprint all over the world that's available 24/7, that's not necessarily event-based. So we're trying to lean into that idea of, can we drop content around the world in a way that is both satisfying to the end user, to the consumer, but also satisfying to the co-creator. So we're using the NFT mechanic of staking, which effectively is you're locking it in place. And then by locking it in place, right now, most people, when they talk about staking, just means, okay, you're effectively removing it from sale. You're making the other side of the collection more scarce, but that's not what we're doing. We're saying by staking this here, you're actually claiming this area or this way spot to say, this is made better by the music, or this is made better by the content. Behind the scenes, we have this liquid staking protocol that when you stake the financial value of the music, we will drop it into a mesh network of validator nodes, and then that generates what's called validator rewards, which are cryptocurrency payments for effectively increasing the security of the network. So this is on Ethereum now that it's proof of stake. This is on Matic on the Polygon chain. So the music gets dropped in place, it gets locked there, and then there's financial incentives to help it stay there. So one is performance fees as new people come through and they want to see these as little micro performances. You know, right now a Spotify stream pays a musician 0.38 cents on average. So about a third of a penny. So if we were to say, okay, these little mini performances are music plus, they're music plus an experience, they're music plus visuals. Is that worth 3.8 cents or 7.5 cents to you? So we're going to create a marketplace for charging performance fees, almost like a digital sort of bar, where a bar owner might have a musician come in and play for the fans, charge a ticket fee at the entry point. We're going to try to create a digital version of that, where now the NFT owners, when they go drop this around the world, they become like a little club owner, and they share in the revenue, the performance revenues. Now, these can be placed all over the place. We think that this content deserves to live everywhere. Anywhere a way spot is that's already been identified as a culturally relevant spot in the world, that's where this content can and should live. Let's see. Sorry, my mouse is very sensitive here. So far, we're having, I think, knock on wood, very good conversations with musicians and labels, because I think they recognize that there are only a handful of ways of sharing or creating experiences with their fans, and they want something more. So here, because of our work with Led Zeppelin, we've got a partnership with Warner Music that's gotten us access to legacy catalog acts like Dio and potentially Black Sabbath and The Doors. So we're working on one hand with legacy acts that are big brands, big bands, and on the other hand, indie artists that have all the rights embedded in themselves. They have no deals in place, and they're looking for new audiences. We're finding that at both ends of that spectrum, musicians really love this idea of immersive content around their music. So this is an upcoming drop schedule of the music videos that we have coming out from our own studio, but we are actively looking for other 3D studios or creators to partner with the musicians who are coming to us saying, hey, we want to do this too, and we just don't have the bandwidth for it, number one, as a studio. But because we're building a platform, we were never trying to capture all of that value. We're trying to play matchmaker between musicians who want creative services and 3D artists who love the music. So if you're interested in building stuff with some of these musician partners, please reach out to us. It's effectively, it's the hard side of our network, is finding studios who have the capabilities, the skills, and availability to create content for musicians. This is a real rough overview of our product roadmap. We are effectively here, September now. We have our beta version of our mobile app built. We have our website built and getting improved upon over the next days. And our drop schedule is scheduled to launch probably Friday. I say probably because we're in that phase of every single little hiccup that we find in the product might delay the launch one day or two, and those 1 days just feels like a week or just feels like painful right now, but we're at the just ship it phase. So our launch is imminent. We have persistent AR built, but we don't have it deployed in the app currently. We are waiting for the future cities update that we're hopeful that it might include Miami, for instance, in time for Art Basel this year. So we think that by Art Basel, we will have persistent AR deployed in the app. We're building social tools on top of all of this to help surface, if 6 different songs exist at a given way spot, how do you rank them? How does a certain user rank them because they might be a fan of jazz instead of rock? And then we're also working with Niantic's multiplayer team to create a live audience or a live concert experience. So this is a rough overview of our roadmap. And please, if any of this resonates for you, if you're a music fan and you want to build some really cool stuff with musicians that are looking for co-creators, please reach out. This QR code will take you to a form to sign up for our test flight. Anybody that signs up, we're going to give you a free music video NFT to play with. Please ask questions on Twitter, on Discord, on Reddit, you name it. We'd love to have you, and we'd love to partner with you guys. I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, on that. We have some really cool questions in, and we have about 12 minutes left. So going to MC you guys the questions right now. Let's see. I guess this is a question for IMMUSE. And feel free, Chris, if you want to hop in with anything. Were there any of these any of those experiences you shared done on the Niantic platform? If so, would you leverage the Niantic app to see the visual music experience?
Yeah, so we do have the ARDK integrated. We are only using the plane building feature right now, not even meshing, right? So as I mentioned, we've got the persistent AR built, just not deployed yet. So everything is built with ARDK, with Lightship built in. It's just not published yet. So fingers crossed. I see we've got Joe Gabriel in the audience. He's our DevRel guy. Rockstar. Hope a bunch of you get to work with him at a certain point. He's been amazingly helpful for us. As far as I know, Joe, we might be one of the first VPS projects deployed in America. Can you correct me on that?
Yeah, there's like less than 5, and you guys
Okay.
are.
All right. Well, the top 5 I'll take. That would be great. So, but yes, we were one of the first partners with Niantic. We built the Led Zeppelin experience on Lightship. It was designed to be part of the initial launch summit back in November, but we just still hadn't gotten the approval from Robert Plant, so it didn't get announced. So I hope that answers your question.
Awesome, thank you. And then another question is, how are you monetizing these experiences? Do people pay to view this?
So there's a couple different stages. The first is what we call the visual single. And that's like the official music video, a metaverse music video done in partnership with the musician. It's designed to look like X. So that can be an NFT that can be purchased, or it can be given away for free by the musician in partnership with the 3D studio. That's right now, because we are the creative studio on our first versions, we've been as agnostic as possible in all of our partnership agreements by trying to establish a 50-50 split between the musicians and the 3D creators. So when an NFT goes up for sale, if you're the 3D studio on it, you would get 50% of the sales of those NFTs in partnership with the musician. Now, as we see like Katy Perry coming to the table or Black Sabbath coming to the table, they obviously have different brand weight in the market, and they'll probably try to negotiate that 50-50 split down or just differently. We don't know where that's going to land. That's going to be driven by the market, but we're trying to effectively say at the beginning, it should be 50-50. The visuals are on equal par with the music. So that's the first way of monetizing, is through the NFT sales with the musician. Then there are secondary sales over time on the marketplaces that also earn secondary royalties. And then when you place these in persistent AR out in the world, they will generate performance fees. What those performance fees are, I think, are TBD. We're going to explore subscription models, almost like it's a $4.99 add-on to your Spotify subscription and it's all you can eat. Or it might be a microtransaction that just requires a signature with Polygon. So we'll explore those, and then there'll be a rev share split with that. So those are 3 different ways we're monetizing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. That's a huge strategy that you guys have going on. And the next question is for SpotX. Do you guys have any projects in the pipeline using Lightship ARDK or any other projects in general?
Yeah, we're working on 2 early stages of 2 new products. One is around a Unity app, kind of focused on more of the augmented reality aspect. So we're using the full Lightship suite there. And then our other one, we're really leaning more into the tradability of NFTs. And eventually they will meet, but the second project is still kind of a Web3 focused project and hasn't seen the integration with AR yet. For our previous projects, we leaned heavily into 8th Wall, which was perfect for the snackable type of experiences that we were building. And now some of the newer stuff is a little bit more just heavyweight, and some of the actions that we want to do with more social type of augmented reality experiences, we're leveraging Lightship now for that.
That sounds really exciting. Looking forward to that, Chris. The next question is for IMMUSE. In terms of a framework for doing transactions, I think Ethereum, do you guys have a framework going on right now?
Yeah, actually, we're supporting both Ethereum and Polygon. We're finding in our first partnerships with Web3 native musicians that already have NFTs out in the marketplace that they really want Ethereum to start with, because that's viewed as sort of a premium collectible chain right now. Polygon is much more adaptable, it's faster, more scalable, and it's cheaper. And so we're doing all of the remix minting on Polygon, as well as the location staking on Polygon. And that will allow us to do like gasless transactions, like Chris mentioned earlier in his presentation. Effectively, we can launch the smart contracts and do the minting of the NFTs behind the scenes without asking people to cover those fees. So we're supporting both those chains to start. Eventually, our content should be chain agnostic. And so we have every ambition to be multi-chain. It's just, we're just starting, I think, with the largest marketplace, which is Ethereum and Polygon.
That's awesome. Thank you for that detailed explanation. So I do have more questions in the Q&A, but I do want to give an opportunity for the community, for people who are live right now, just to raise your hand and ask a question if you have that. Let's see, I do see someone with their hand raised. Go ahead and unmute yourself. I think it's Joe.
Hey everybody, I'm Joe. I'm from the developer relations team here with the Niantic side, and I just want to say thank you everyone for being here. Chris and Chris being able to present to this audience is awesome. So I'm definitely new, to the Web3 side, and it's been an awesome education working with the IMMUSE team. And if there's any developers here in this audience, I just kind of wanted to give a quick shout out that your creativity in the way that you're trying to bring all these different solutions together is really important, and just very much kind of encouraged and supported by the Niantic team. As Chris and the rest of the SpotX team have shown, we've made investments into this space. We're watching it very closely, and we're trying to build a very user and player friendly, human-centric way to approach Web3 in a way that the technology is a deep part of it, but it's the user experience, it's the fun, it's the utility, as a way to look at it also. But it really is about the enhanced experience of whatever vertical that you're trying to get into. So I just encourage everyone here, you all have different superpowers, interests, background, and experiences, bringing that into the creative space of using Web3 to, really bring, just new types of gameplay experiences and applications available. We're excited about moving in this direction and seeing Chris and the IMMUSE team kind of take this. And I mentioned earlier, Chris, you asked kind of how many VPS teams are out there. There's a few teams, but you guys are definitely, I would say, the most gung-ho and just going at it so fast. I'm always crazy in our weekly meetings seeing how fast your guys' development cycles are. And it's really exciting seeing your drop schedule and just how forward-looking you guys are going into everything. Anyway,
I will say from the other side of the coin, thank you for that, Joe. From the other side of the coin, it feels like we can't move fast enough, right? The Web3 space moves so fast that 1 week is a normal month anywhere else. And so whenever we're talking our week-to-week meetings, it's we've got so much packed into 7 days that it just doesn't even feel like we're moving fast enough. It's an insane space. It's exciting, but it's also exhausting because we're on a 24/7 cycle.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe, and for that question. And I guess I have the last question, and this is going to go to both SpotX and IMMUSE. Maybe SpotX, you can start first, and then IMMUSE, you can wrap up afterwards. So in terms of developers who are just getting started on NFTs or Web3 for AR, what would you say to them? And also, what's your kind of vision for Web3 use in AR in the future, and maybe 5-10 years going forward?
Very cool. I guess in terms of vision, I'll tackle the second question first. In terms of vision, I think looking back to that kind of quote from Shakaya around owning digital property, and Chris mentioned as well, thinking about what are things that people want to own digitally first, instead of starting with the technology and then trying to fit something into that, starting with things that actually make sense, like breaking down the music industry and understanding that there's a problem here that this technology can solve, and then building products to solve that. So I think where that interacts with augmented reality is saying, when Niantic's mission around the real world metaverse is bringing people out into the world, and now how can we bring digital property and your own digital property or other people's digital property, whether it's music videos, whether it's artwork, whether all these different things, and create this incredibly tech-enriched vector on the world is something that I know me and the SpotX team are super excited about, getting people off the couch and into the real world, and then using the technology to enhance those experiences. So, I think in the simplest form, you obviously have, NFTs and augmented reality that are around you in the world. And there's been plenty of different NFT galleries that are just using screens and things like that. But for more immersive art experiences and augmented reality or 3D art, the kind of possibilities are endless. And then I think it goes all the way to collectibles and looking at loyalty programs or trips and all these different ways that you kind of collect either physical items or engage with those. How can those now be brought into digital property around NFTs and what the blockchain can do for you? And then, of course, what Chris mentioned too, that it's all accessible. So being able to look into that data and have it public and see anything that's happened in a spot or things like that, I think is really exciting. And then what was the first part of the question again?
What would you say to devs who are just dipping their toes into Web3 for AR right now?
Yeah, I think just get started and check out those resources, buildspace.co, developer DAO. Just start Googling how to build your first NFT and take a crack at it. It's really one of those things where it moves super fast, like Chris mentioned. And it's because once you kind of start building on it, it just becomes really fun and you start to understand kind of how it all works and the permissionless nature of it. And you see other projects that you get inspired by. There's also a lot of no code ways to just make NFTs. Like if you go to OpenSea right now, which is the biggest NFT marketplace, you can create an NFT and mint a picture of your dog or mint a picture of whatever you want and set up a wallet, send it there. That's how I started. And using something like Polygon or Solana or something that doesn't have high gas fees. Even Ethereum gas fees aren't very much right now. It's a very low cost way to just start playing around with it and find projects that you like, especially on Twitter. There's tons of cool projects to look into. There's also DApp Radar is a good website to look into really cool, just decentralized apps that are being built for a million different things. So kind of go down the rabbit hole and start building along the way. And I think you'll be happy with what you find.
Awesome. Thank you. And Chris Nunes?
I would say you're on the right track. If you're just dipping your toe into blockchain NFT space, don't let anything in the market that's happening right now change any of your curiosity or explorations, because you're on the right track. This is the future of the next phase of the internet. Right now we're in sort of a pricing, what's called a bear market. So put all of the price stuff aside, because this effectively is transformative technology, right? There's a famous saying from Mark Andreessen, which is software is eating the world. And that's saying anything that can be turned into software at some point will be. And because of that, it can be iterated upon faster than anything in the real world, and it will improve the world because of its software capabilities. You apply that to blockchain, and blockchain is eating software. There's a reason why blockchain and ledger entries and trying to identify which transactions happened when in the global computer, and that's effectively what Ethereum is. It's a global computer system. That blockchain orientation of how you sequence transactions is super powerful, and it's changing the way financial incentives are positioned into the web. It's changing the way users think about digital artifacts. And so if you're just dipping a toe in, you're still early. There's still amazing upside, because in my view, the entire global GDP at some point will be on blockchain, which means it's going from effectively $0 of market value to $100 trillion of market value. You're going to see a ton of volatility over time, but that's where it's headed. So you're still really early, because there's like less than 1% of the world is actively using this tech. So start building with it. And it's very, very blue ocean opportunity. If you're an entrepreneur, if you can think about a solution, there's an amazing space for you to dip your toe in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris Nunes and Chris Daniels. I know that this was a really insightful presentation for me. I know that our community really appreciates it. Just some last minute reminders for everyone, especially if you joined a little bit late. We have our September mini jam voting open right now, and our next month's mini jam opens next week. And don't forget to RSVP for our product session next Tuesday on Lightship Game Board. Thank you again, SpotX and IMMUSE, and thank you everyone for attending. Appreciate it. Take our survey if you can in our chat, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.